Well, hi there again, and welcome to Chess Base Workshop. I'm your host, Steve Lopez. Thank you for clicking the link and joining us. One of the things I've done a lot in Chess Base Workshop is tell stories. I'm a chess player just like you, and consequently, there are a ton of stories. We can all tell them. We all have them. And today you get a how-to video with a story. There's a little background to this game. The game you see on the screen right here in Fritz13 is probably the best game I ever lost. I was playing in a tournament. I was actually running this tournament back in 1995, and I remember this game really, really well. I had contracted the flu, head cold something, a day or two before the tournament, and I was really, really sick that day. Of course, there's the old gag about Emmanuel Lasker saying he never beat a well opponent. But this was a cool game because I was really, really sick. In fact, when I got there, the guys who were there for the tournament, there were about 15 people there ready to play. They were all encouraging me to cancel the tournament and go home, even though I was the tournament director. Without me, there's no event. And I said, no, I'll live. And we did the pairings, and unfortunately, I think there was an odd number of guys in the first round was the deal. I hadn't intended to play, but with an odd number of people, I had to kind of be houseman, and I seeded myself into the tournament. And in the first round, because it was a Swiss, I had to play a guy that was rated multiple hundreds of points higher than me, my friend Floyd Boudreau. And this should have been a slaughter. This game should have been just absolutely, I should have been gutted and left lying, bleeding on the floor after this game. There's no way I should have played this game and won it. And I didn't. But I played it actually considering the fact that Floyd is a far better player than me, and I'm not even a titled player. Floyd's a master. I'm not even an expert. So Floyd should have just killed me. And instead, we ended up with a game that I actually played fairly well. I went a pawn down early on and just never got the pawn back. And we finally got into a position in the end game where I saw it was hopeless, and I gave up after 36 moves. But Floyd commented, he says, "I'm amazed you played the game as well as you did for as sick as you are." And so it's a game I'm actually kind of proud of. There was the dual handicap of being outclassed plus being sick as a dog. The cool part was, before this game was over, and I was getting up like every 2 or 3 moves to blow my nose. I mean, I had this raging head cold. It was horrible. And about halfway through the game, another player showed up late, a guy named Phil, and I could have kissed him, which would have made him sick for multiple reasons. Because that way Phil could then be seeded into the tournament, I could drop out, which is exactly what happened. Then I went and pushed some folding chairs together and crashed out in the corner. I told the guys, if there's any problems, wake me up. Wake me up at the end of the round, we'll do another set of pairings, etc. Otherwise, leave me be. So Dayquil was my best friend that day. Anyway, that's the story of this game. And I've gone through it several times over the years, and there are certain points in the game where I wish I had some analysis, and I've had different chess engines analyze it. So I decided to submit this game to the Let's Check server for other people's engines to analyze. And that's what we're going to look at today. The last couple of videos we've looked at submitting a position last time around to have other people analyze it. 2 weeks ago, 2 videos back, we looked at how to contribute your engine to analyze positions that other people have submitted. By contributing your engine and analyzing positions, you are given credits in return that you can spend to analyze positions and to analyze complete games. Last time around, we saw how to analyze a position at the cost of a credit. This time around, we're going to see how to analyze a complete game with the Let's Check server, where you're going to submit basically this game as a batch of positions for other people to analyze. So let's have a look. We've got this game set up already. That's the first step, is to load the game that you want to have analyzed. That's the first step. If you get online first and do submit game, it's going to submit whatever's on the screen. So make sure you've loaded your game first that you want to submit for analysis. The next step, as we've seen many times, is to go to the Let's Check server by going to the engine menu and selecting the Let's Check button. But for the next step, we're not going to go to another button in the engine menu. Instead, we're going to go to the analysis menu, and you see we have a button there that says submit game, and the mouse over says submit a whole game for analysis by other engines. And that is exactly what we're going to do. So we have our game loaded. This is the game we want to have other people's engines analyze. So let's go ahead and click submit game, and we're going to find out what happens. Now, I'm not going to do a video of this actually in action. I'm just going to talk you through the steps here with a bunch of still pictures. But after you've clicked that button, you will see something like this. If you click the Live Book tab, you look at your information pane. It shows you're connected, tells you how many people are online. It welcomes you by your PlayChess username. Speed index, we discussed this in the previous video. It's just a number that tells you how fast your engine is compared to other engines you might be running, compared to other people's engines. It's kind of a benchmark number. If you have a dual core processor and are running a multi-processor engine, you will get a number, and it's going to depend in part on your hardware, in part on the engine, in part of how much RAM you've allocated for hash tables, etc. So if I allocate a lot of hash tables, I'll generally get a lot of RAM for hash tables. I should get a little bit higher speed index. I've seen it go as high as 65 or 66. On the other hand, if I've been running my computer full bore for several hours, I'll see a little bit lower speed index. I may get a speed index of 60 instead of 62 if I'm running my computer a lot. It's going to vary a little bit. However, if I load a single processor engine instead of a multi-processor engine, I'll have a much lower speed index. It'll be down anywhere in the low 30s to 40-ish. So I see my speed index for this engine on this machine at this time is 62. We see that I've submitted 62 positions. 10 of them have already been analyzed. So they take the rest of the positions I've submitted and they charge me 30 credits, and that shows that after those 30 are deducted, I have 192 credits remaining. So that's what this white part is right here. How many positions you submit, how many have already been analyzed. The server does check. There's a little bit of a delay before you see this information. It checks to see how many positions have already been analyzed. It also deducts, I believe, positions that are part of the opening book because they're not going to be analyzed, and it deducts from your total number of credits, the credits you have earned by volunteering, by contributing your engine for other people to use for their analysis purposes. So I still have 192 credits left after this, and what will happen is this: as it begins to analyze, as it begins to go through, basically all of these positions of this game, backing up to here, all of these positions have now been submitted essentially as individual positions. There's not going to be an engine that's going to analyze this game in its entirety. Every one of those positions goes out onto the server, and they're divided up among all the people that are contributing their engines at that time. So what happens is different people are going to analyze different positions within this game. Consequently, if there's a bunch of people online contributing their engines at a given time, this comes back pretty fast. In fact, when I did this the other day, as I said, we're doing a series of stills here. I've already done this analysis. I got the analysis of this complete game. I got it all back within 5 minutes. It was pretty quick. What you'll see happening is a countdown. Every time somebody finishes and saves analysis of a position, it'll say submitted position finished and saved. It'll have the name of the user who just submitted, or I'm sorry, who just analyzed that position, and it'll tell you how many positions are left. When you get down to 0, it's like a countdown. It's like waiting for a rocket ship to blast off. Every time a position is analyzed, you'll get another note in blue, and each time open positions goes down by 1, like a countdown. And when you finally get down to 0, what that means is all of your positions have been analyzed. They've all been done. What you can do then, it's your option whether you want to get offline or not. You can go back to the engine tab and click Let's Check and get offline, or click this button right here. By the way, it's another way to do it. This button in the Live Book pane also will disconnect you. So it's up to you whether you want to disconnect or not disconnect. But either way, when you click the Notation tab, you will see Analysis. Of course, I got offline and went over here and had a look, and the first several moves are out of book, and once we leave book, we start getting analysis of different positions. For each position analyzed, we get a short three-move variation, 3-ply variation. We get a numerical analysis. We've talked about this numerous times. How deep the engine looked and the name of the engine that analyzed the position. So, for example, after 4B6, the position that occurred after I played B6, Fritz13 analyzed it to a depth of 24 plies, a ply being a half move, so 12 full moves deep. White is ahead. Here's what should have been played with best play for both sides. Turns out that my opponent, playing knight f3, played the best move here. And by the way, there's a bunch of that in this game. He does play some very good moves. But you find some interesting things. You can scroll up and down through the analysis and look at different facets of the analysis, look at what engines analyzed, look at the recommendations they give, look at the numerical assessment. What happens in this game, very early on in the early middle game, I lose a pawn. And I never get it back. Excuse me. And the way I end up losing this game is Floyd is pushing his A pawn, and it gets to the point where he's going to promote that pawn. There's no way to stop it without sacrificing more material, so I just ended up giving up the ghost and resigning. But here's something I found that was interesting in scrolling up and down and looking at looking at this analysis, and that is that at this point in the game where I played knight h6 at move 21, and I wish I'd clicked on it so we could have the board position, but what I noticed was that with best play in this position, which I did not play, the best move according to this engine was c6. If I'd played that move and these two moves had been played in reply, I would have evened up the game. I would have had a dead even position, which is a little bit embittering, but on the other hand, again, this is probably my best game I ever lost. I'm actually fairly proud of this game. Like I said, sick as I was in playing a player as good as Floyd is, you know, I actually did way better than I had any right to. He should have slaughtered me, and it was actually a fairly close game. It wasn't a total crush. So I'm pretty proud of it. But it is a little bit galling to see that I could have actually maybe evened the game up, possibly saved a draw out of this. Anyway, though, we have all this analysis in the game. It's all there. For every move in the game, we have a little short 3-move variation, numerical analysis showing the evaluation, showing the search depth, and the name of the engine that created this analysis. Of course, it shows up here, but it's not automatically saved. As always, since it cost me 30 credits to analyze this game, I should probably hang on to that analysis now, shouldn't I? So what I do is go to the File menu, select Save, and then go to Replace. Of course, it says replace the game in the database with this version, so I will click that, and you get your little pop-up that has the header information with our names, my name, Floyd name, the event. I don't need to change any of that. I just need to click Replace, click OK, and now I have this analysis to look at and review anytime I want to. In fact, as I said, I analyzed this game a couple of days ago, and I'm still looking at the analysis. I haven't even finished fooling with it yet, looking at the analysis that these engines have provided. But that's how you submit an entire game for analysis. Just to review, we'll go the whole way back to the beginning here. Oops, one too far. There we go. You start here with your game that you want to submit. Very important. Remember this. If you're going to submit a game for analysis, make sure that game is loaded. The first time I did this, I thought I was going to click on Submit Game and get a pop-up that was going to allow me to go to the database and select the game I actually wanted. Turns out I had a different game loaded. I didn't get a pop-up, and I wasted about 40 credits on a game that I didn't really want to have analyzed. So make sure the game that you want to analyze is the one that is on the screen. It doesn't matter where in the game the cursor bar is. It does not matter what engine you have loaded. Your engine, doesn't play into it, and you don't have to worry about where the bar is, because what's going to happen once you contribute that game, if you flip back and forth between live book and notation, what you're going to see is it tends to start with the end of the game and work backwards. The ending positions tend to be the first ones queued on the server. So it doesn't matter where you are in the game, it doesn't matter what engine you have loaded. But make sure the game that you want is the one that is loaded. Then get on the Let's Check server by clicking the Let's Check button, and then go to the Analysis menu and click the big Submit Game button. Not Let's Check Analysis. We've looked at that before. That's a different thing. Instead, we're just going to submit the game and let the other engines do their stuff. And again, just keep an eye on this display here that is constantly updated with what's going on the server, and you'll see at some point that a submitted position has been finished with the number of positions remaining after the equal sign, and each time this pops up, this number will be one lower. It's like a countdown to launch a rocket, and it'll count backwards, and when it gets to 0, open positions equals 0, it's done, and you can get offline or not. It's your choice. But if you click on the notation pane at that time, you will see your notation here. And do remember, if you'd like to preserve that analysis. When you go into the notation pane, you'll see your analysis. If you want to save it, make sure you go to Save, Replace. And that way you'll hang on to that analysis and you don't have to waste more credits analyzing the game more than once. That's it. Very simple. For Chess Base Workshop, I am Steve Lopez reminding you to please do have fun.